Good day and welcome to MENA ISC. My name is Eric Wallace. I'm the Director of Sales and Business Development for Comtech Location Technologies, and we'll be moderating our panel today on developing human capital in cybersecurity at scale. I'd like to introduce you to our three panelists. Peter Meehan is the co-founder and managing director of the Cybersecurity Workforce Alliance, CWA, which is an industry-led alliance with a mission to develop, accelerate, and scale a diverse talent pipeline of entrants into the cybersecurity profession globally. Peter also serves as SVP of International IQ4 and Partnerships for IQ4 Corporation, the market leader in workforce skills management and talent development platforms, including an advanced skills-based interoperable learning and employment record, or LER, which is a digital wallet which showcases skills, proposes upskilling and career pathways, and matches talent to jobs. In addition, we're joined by Gopal Vital. He's the Chief Information Security Officer of Auto Club Group, or AAA. Gopal has over 30 years of experience in the information technology and operational technology environments as a CISO, cybersecurity strategist and thought leader, enterprise architect, and OT process control engineer. Gopal has a host of certifications. Beyond a very deep and broad technical background in governance, risk, compliance, security, and privacy, Gopal has been a featured speaker on cybersecurity. Gopal also teaches cybersecurity at College of Engineering Preparedness, Homeland Security, and Cybersecurity at Albany and John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York. Lastly, Chris Will is the Vice President for Cyber Solutions for Comtech Location Technologies and CYBRScore. He's a content and business development professional who's been focused on cybersecurity since publishing the Information Systems Security and Assurance series of books, labs, and courseware for Ascend Learning and Jones and Bartlett. With a background in college publishing, Chris has been working on delivering solutions to higher education institutions, government agencies, and corporate clients for 3 decades. He's committed to creating job-ready graduates and cyber-ready to meet the demands of the workplace and effectively combat the increasing threat environment. And I'd like to welcome you to the panel today. And our first topic, what is the current obstacles in filling cybersecurity jobs? And I'll turn that one over to you, Gopal.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to talk about the challenges in 3 dimensions. So I think the first dimension is there is definitely a skill gap, or you can call it a talent gap in the industry, right? Because cybersecurity is an evolving area. It's when I went to college, it was not even there, cybersecurity, right? Even when I entered the job space, it was not there. So this is becoming more and more with IoT. So there's a skill gap with talent gap in this area. And because of the skill gap, what we are also finding is what you call as the best talent. There's a war on talent. I think that's what they're calling, right? So the best talent gets acquired by large companies, right? So I think if you're a medium and large companies, the people are going after the same people, right? Against the same talent pool. So there's definitely a skill gap. The second thing is there's a supply and demand mismatch. The demand is so much. So I think Chris was mentioning in another call that we have around 385,000 open jobs in cybersecurity in US, and we are not able to fill it. The time to take these jobs, to fill these jobs, taking a big time. So there's a supply and demand gap, lopsided to the demand side and not much supply, right? And then the third thing is the organizational fit. Let's assume that we are able to find somebody. It takes a lot of time to make sure that the person is productive, can do what we want them to do. So there is a little bit of learning curve and time it takes to make sure that person is can be put to work. And then after that, we need to do a great job in retaining good talent, because like always there's opportunities out there. So we have to put programs to make sure that we are able to retain talent that we have trained. So those are the 3 challenges that we are facing.
Gopal, thanks for your thoughts. And Peter, if you can continue from there.
Indeed, thank you. Thank you, Gopal. That's a nice lead in for what I wanted to say about this, because onboarding people is a big issue. There's one thing that HR can go and find talent, but then that is trainable, but how do you get them up to speed as fast as possible? So I think there's a number of issues that I can lay into this, lay on top of what you said. Firstly, it's about awareness. If people are not aware that there are career opportunities and pathways into cyber, they're never even going to venture into the area. And that we've seen is a big issue, and we're doing things about changing that. I think the other thing is that education on its own is something we realized back in 2015. Education on its own is not geared to produce workforce readiness. It's not their job. They're about academic excellence. And it falls to industry to actually create its own curriculum and provide the mentoring that's needed at scale to actually bring people through a process such that you can give them experience, knowledge, skills, and abilities before they actually arrive at the employer's doorstep. That way, we're finding we're cutting 3 to 9 months out of the onboarding process.
Thanks, Peter, for those insights. And Chris, if you can take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cybersecurity workforce skills gap is all about human potential. And by that, I mean, we need to cast a wider net, right? And we have to cast the net earlier. We have to look at all demographics and find a way to identify talent in this area, as much as attitude and aptitude and a lot of things that we can do to facilitate, yes, the awareness, but to really cast that broad net, because to fill the number of jobs, for example, that just opened in the US, not alone the world, or the MENA region specifically, you're going to have to identify talent sooner in the process. By the time they get to college, it's too late. You want to identify people, ideally in high school, in middle school. And, my son's got a school where they have a fantastic cybersecurity program involving kids in the middle school. So there's just incredible, opportunities out there if people are put in the right situation. So, and I mean everybody, we have an opportunity to reach out to disadvantaged communities, to women, to minorities, to really grow our talent base. And I think that's the only way we're really going to address this gap. We've got to address the top of the funnel, as it were. And yes, the awareness is one thing, but policies and procedures to get people there are going to be very important as well.
Peter, I'm going to jump back to you. Why are the current models not fulfilling these roles, and how would you recommend that we do more to build them up?
Well, that was part of my first answer, is that education on its own is not geared to produce this readiness. And education is only really dealing with the on-ramp people from the young. But there are other areas out there, such as return service people, or people that are reskilling after coming out of jobs that are being displaced through COVID or displaced through digitalization of their workplace. So the other thing that I've been observing is that governments are trying to do something about this, and so is education. But really what happens here is governments tend to put up funding to develop skills. So they provide that, say, to education. Education focuses on K being the knowledge. But employers are actually looking for knowledge, skills, ability, competency, and experience. So that requires an applied business learning approach to complement the academic learning. The other thing we're seeing is the funding from governments that tend to go to education, which then produces more courses and more people around those courses. But still, there is that gap between education and industry. And that's why we exist as the Cybersecurity Workforce Alliance, to actually build a bridge back to those establishments and cast a wider net and level the playing field across all demographic areas. So I think if we can get breakthroughs in those areas, we'll be able to really make good progress.
Yeah, I mean, I think Peter's on point, right? I mean, there's so many entities involved in order to produce the types of graduates, and I shouldn't even say graduates, the type of talent that we need in order to be successful here and meeting the skills gap. That I think industry for a long time was focused on knowledge, just as what Peter was saying, and that if you look at a lot of, job ads, they're looking for very specific certifications, which indicate a baseline of knowledge. That's great, but those people may or may not actually have the skills to actually do the work. So, working with the Cyber Workforce Alliance in these mentoring programs, leveraging tools like, hands-on labs, learning exercises, both in a team setting and in a setting where people can practice on their own, is a great way for people to actually hone those types of skills and develop those types of skills. And I think is really important in sort of building out the sort of documented knowledge, skills, and abilities that people have in order to be successful in the field. Gopal, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think, Chris, you were right in pointing out that there's a funnel and we need to bring in more into the funnel, right? So I think a couple of things that we are thinking around is that we need to go upstream. One of the things that we are now realizing is you really don't need a four-year college degree because it's a technical skill, right? So if you're a network analyst or if you're a threat analyst and all those things, some of these roles, entry-level roles, really doesn't require a college degree. So we are thinking about how do we bring in more folks either from a school right after they come from school. The second area that we're also thinking of increasing the supply on the supply side is there is a lot of people who are excluded, right? So for example, neurodiverse people, there's a lot of good talent and especially very applicable talent from the autism spectrum or Asperger's. There is really good talent that we can leverage. We are not untapped into. So the industry as a whole is now looking at going beyond the traditional talent sourcing methodologies to widen the net to bring in more supply side sources into the ecosystem.
Can I just build on what has been said here, please? Because we listen intently to the employers, and what they're telling us is that experience trumps degrees, and experience with certificates is fine, but don't take a certificate without this. So the other thing is that 85% of the hiring decision is wrapped around the soft or essential skills that are about, does this person understand my industry in the context? For example, if I was to bring them in, are they already trained around the NIST framework and understand how a team would operate and apply that, which is what we do. So it boils down to the fact that most employers are telling us, you might have a fantastic degree or all these certs and such like, but what can I do with you? I have to then train you and onboard you. I'm so busy, I'd very often be prepared not to hire you and wait for somebody who has that competency that can cut the time out of my onboarding because I'm too busy. So focusing on, as we do, on the contextual workplace skills and complementing Comtech CYBRScore with the labs is a fabulous connection that we're seeing raising the skill level in the bar here.
Chris, we'll come back to you for this next question. Who should be responsible for filling and creating these pathways? Should it be government, commercial, or education? And what do you think those best-in-class partnerships are going to look like?
I think they're all important, but I really don't want to discount the importance of government in all of this. And if you look at the historical trend, example would ideally be 8570 here in the US. That mandate creating job roles and then aligning those job roles with different types of certification training really sort of raised the bar and drove an entire industry forward for the last 2 decades. I think we're now getting to that stage where we're working with a new framework that is very much job role oriented, and we have to really train people to those job roles. The government has defined those job roles. I think it's really important for the government now to step up and work with industry and with education to help fund these training programs, because these are desperate times. We have such a shortage of talent that, frankly, the government should be spending money to get these people trained and put them into these job roles, even in an entry-level fashion, so that they can begin at least an apprenticeship program of some sort moving through the system. Just my opinion.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the fact of the matter is that we're running virtual internships over a 12-week part-time period where they'll input about 70 hours and mentors will provide about 18 to 20 hours. But that's turning out with a 350-hour on-the-job industry-recognized credential that cuts that time. But taking up Chris's point here about public-private partnerships, I just did a quick sum on my pad here. According to CyberSeek today, 530,000 jobs are open in the USA alone. And Cybersecurity Ventures talks about 6 million people by 2024 around the world. If you just took the 530,000 people and said they were going to get paid 100K on average or whatever, just do the math. Imagine the tax dollars coming back. Any investment from government into that as the pipeline with a private-public partnership where industry gets on board this, the return on investment is going to be phenomenal in money terms, let alone the protection of the economy, the critical infrastructure, and even the individual.
Thanks, Peter. Those are great insights. And I think from there, let's go back to Gopal and get some insight into who and what are exemplars in the space that are breaking through and leading to success in this area of reskilling.
Yeah, and I think this is these are early days, Eric, right? I mean, I think I think one of the things that we are realizing that the traditional model that is been there to put people to work, from you go to school, you go to college, or you do a technical degree, and then you enter the workforce, right? We are changing that model. I think we are saying that, as Chris and Peter was saying, that there has to be a public-private collaboration along with the academic institutions. So it is a three-legged thing. And if you look at in all these areas, on the private sector, there are organizations that is actually running these kind of programs to reskill people who are available. These are all people with technical skills. They may not have the cyber skills, but they have other technology skills. We believe that we can reskill them, right? We can't just look for outside talent, right? As automation and digitization come in, these people are going to, and as some of these jobs are being moved out of the country to low-cost countries, these people are going to become available, right? So we are seeing organization taking I don't want to name, at least my organization is taking a deeper look into reskilling people who will, who are interested in taking on a cybersecurity, because that's one thing, right? Are you interested in, you have to learn. So are you willing to come to the table? We can give you all the resources you need. And there are a lot of banks and other companies, even technology companies, right? Doing a great job. And there are universities actually working together, right? So we are seeing some, both on the private sector, especially on the financial services sector. I mean, if you want to kind of pick out one sector, the critical infrastructure protection, that again, I think that gets back to the point of what's the role of government. In 2009, when the cybersecurity executive order was given, which defined 16 sectors as critical infrastructure, and they need to have some minimum standards, that led to certain implications, right? So I think that we are seeing the critical infrastructures, organizations in critical infrastructures being the early adopters of this model and being exemplars. Some of them are doing a great job, right? Some of them are catching up. So,
well, Gopal, I just wanted to add to that real quick. And, I've been thinking about the whole Colonial Pipeline attack, right? I mean, I was thinking about the fact that this weekend when I tried to put gas in my car, I wasn't sure whether the gas station I was going to would actually have gas for me to put in my vehicle. And you think about is this our Sputnik moment? Is this the moment where, at least here in the U.S., perhaps worldwide, is this the type of event that really raises our awareness? We've had other, moments before, but I think when you're looking at critical infrastructure, it's not the target attack, right? I mean, target stores is one thing, but when you're looking at when you're hearing stories of people hoarding gasoline in plastic bags and putting it in their pickup trucks, it speaks to sort of the paranoia and sort of the social disturbances that a cyber attack can really have. I think it was a critical moment for us as a nation. I really hope we don't forget it. It looks like Colonial paid the ransom because the pipeline's opening up. There's no way they solved this problem without paying the ransom, and all the news stories I'm reading indicate that that's what's going on. But but I'm hoping that this is an opportunity for us to really move forward and to see the activity from the government sector stimulate, the training and retraining that we need, to move us all forward.
Interesting point was that Colonial paid $5 million ransom. Imagine what we could do with that if people invested in the training and skills through the CWA, which is very economic. And just on that point about scaling that, since 2015, when we started, had to figure out how to do all of this, we put over 6,000 learners through the program. Less than 1% were aware that there was a cyber career before. 30% are getting jobs pretty well straight away in cyber because of the result of the short-term work. And 43% are women without even any affirmative action to try and select them. So it's from the awareness to inspired careers, we've proven the model. Everybody could do this. It's transportable around the world. So we're here to help.
Thanks, Peter, for that great wrap up. And Gopal, Chris, Peter, really enjoyed having you guys on the panel, and hopefully we provided some good insight into cybersecurity training in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.